Tucker Carlson has admitted he lies on TV, okay? Let's just go to his words first.
The real problem with the withdrawal from Afghanistan was not terrible decisions that the Biden administration made or the Pentagon made, or that our entire foreign policy establishment, bipartisan, made for 20 years. No, the real problem is some guy in Alabama who's got unauthorized views. It's like, maybe you should stop attacking these people because they are the weakest people in our society, and you're doing it in order to defend like the people in our society, but also the richest and the most powerful. You're the Praetorian Guard for the most powerful people. Like, how can you live with yourself? I mean that. That is so immoral.
So what do you think the answer to that question is? How do they, when you have to cover some idiotic thing that Stelter said or Cuomo, just these clown people, when you have to cover it, right? Or Don Lemon, as you call him, like how do you think they live with themselves at this point when they just lie again and again? And we have the internet to expose the lies. If this isn't 20 years ago when you were on CNN, and we couldn't expose things, we can expose it now and they still do it.
Well, I guess I would ask myself, like, I mean, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I really try not to. I try never to lie on TV. I just don't, I don't like lying. I certainly do it, out of weakness or whatever. But to systematically lie like that without asking yourself, like, why am I doing this?
These guys are bashing liars. And in the middle of bashing liars, he distinguishes himself from other liars by admitting, yes, he too is a prolific liar and he lies on television. But listen, don't blame Tucker. He lies only when he's cornered. He lies only out of weakness. You weak individual. I'm not the one calling you weak, damn it. You called yourself weak. Tucker Carlson admits that he has lied on television. I've actually uncovered at least one of those lies. We all know that he has misrepresented the truth as part of his brand. It gets even deeper. Now, here's one of those instances where I know for sure that Tucker Carlson was lying on TV. Now, here it is.
I can say that actually you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there and I brought a friend of mine, you'll remember her, and she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble. And so,
Tucker, is this true?
I don't remember the woman you're speaking of or the context at all, honestly. But I would like to know who.
He was cornered. He's a weak man. He doesn't like lying on TV. He just, but he's not systematically lying, and that's the real issue here. Okay. Breakdown. Fox News host admitted his relationship with the truth sometimes wavers, as he was interviewed by fellow conservative media host Dave Rubin. Here's what's really ironic, y'all, okay? The first time Tucker Carlson tells the truth is the first time he actually admits to lying. This, I don't know anybody else who shares this first, ever, other than Tucker. It happened after Rubin asked Carlson how CNN employees like Chris Cuomo and Brian Stelter live with themselves when they just lie again and again, and we have the internet to expose the lies. So there's your context, right? Carlson seemed to take the question personally to the point where he made this confession about his own relaxed relationship with factual accuracy, and then he goes on to what you just heard. Now, this is not the first admission of him lying. As a matter of fact, it's certified in court documents. Carlson's admission of lying isn't exactly news. Why? In fact, Fox News won a defamation lawsuit that was filed against Carlson last year by successfully arguing that given Mr. Carlson's reputation any reasonable viewer arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statement he makes. In other words, they sue Tucker for defamation. Fox News defends him in court. And the defense is, bruh be lying. That's the defense. Doc, you work in the psychological arts, my friend. What made Tucker Carlson tell the truth for the first time and snitch on himself about being a liar?
Well, there was something very confessional about this whole moment, right? In other words, and it was from a psychological perspective, quite revealing, right? Because he's accusing other people of lying.
Right.
And then he's like, oh, I lied too, but then he was, as you say, distinguishing his own lies from the lies of other people. Now, I think it's fair to say, on one hand, we all know people are casting the news. It's not just about factual information. But I think the issue here is, first of all, of course, people do rely on people like Tucker Carlson for a lot of factual information about the pandemic, about the vaccine, about all these factors. And so there is a kind of basis of kind of truthful information that I think people should adhere to. So I think that's part of it. The other part is, after getting the invite for your show, I went down the rabbit hole. I watched the whole interview. And what was interesting about Carlson's kind of formulation is his lies were in the service of a greater ideal, which in his interview was about protecting poor white people who are getting kind of beaten by the system. They're the most kind of helpless kind of people. And so there was this idea that basically his lies were in the service of a bigger ideal, which was watch the interview, a very racial ideal. And so he does this as a way of kind of putting his position toward a kind of racial politics of defending poor white people who, as he says, are getting kind of the worst shaft of the system. And so he's also almost kind of playing the race card in terms of defending his lying in a particular way, which I thought was fascinating. I mean, it really was, as a psychiatrist, a pretty fascinating 45-minute session into the mind of Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, maybe one day your class will use this as a case study for insanity.